Positive energy all the time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Rep Your City. We have San Jose in the building. We have New Jersey in the house. I'm representing Chicago. Shout out to everybody on Facebook, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and my other Facebook account. Salute to both Facebook accounts. Good to see everyone. We got the beautiful city of New Orleans in the building. We got Greensboro in the house. We got Pittsburgh in the building. Shout out to all my wrenches out there. All my mods, all my wrenches. Thank you all so much for helping me over here to keep things nice for everybody. Yeah, big things going on in New Jersey for sure. Houston, Texas is doing it big. The great city of Atlanta, where it's always popping in Atlanta. Salute to everybody in Georgia. Here we go. I didn't have time to change. I've been working out, so I just had to come like this. Trying to stay on my workout. It's looking crazy. Los Angeles is in the building. It's going to be like that and worse. I'll tell you why. To all my subscribers, do not post any anti-American statements on social media. Anything that you don't like, what you see ICE doing, what you see federal agents doing, what you see the U.S. government doing, refrain from outing yourself on social media. Okay? To my subscribers, do not say anything against the United States government in any type of way right now, especially concerning Venezuela, Greenland, any type of military conversations, anything about ICE, anything about federal agents. You can watch it. You can watch it. You can watch it. You're welcome to watch it. Just do not comment unless it's pro-America. Unless it's pro-America. Unless it's on the side of the Trump administration. This is for military type action, police, federal agents, immigration, border patrol. Stay out of it. Unless you want you and your entire family under investigation. I'm just saying. If you have a Instagram or Facebook or something, somebody comes on your account and makes a post that's really anti-American, If you see it, delete it. You won't be in trouble because you didn't say anything. But if you see it, delete it in order to save the rest of your subscribers or friends or followers from agreeing with that statement. Never fight a battle that you cannot win. And you cannot beat the feds on social media. You're venting, but when it's their turn, they're not going to be venting when they come to see you. They're not going to vent. They're not, when it's their turn to say something about you, it's not going to be a vent. When it's federal, your lawyers have limited powers. Very, 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 very limited against the federal government. Also, you must know that we don't know what's going on. We don't know. You see the lady that was driving a car and turning all around and doing all that extra stuff with ice out there and got shot? In the hood, we call her actions doing too much. Yeah, she was doing too much. If you're driving, you come across a protest, you see ICE, you see federal agents, stay calm, go straight, and drive the hell up out that situation. Don't hang around. Don't turn around. Okay? Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Get out of that situation. Get out of there. My advice to you right now is avoid protests. Don't get me wrong. I support the people that protest. But the problem with protests is you might be protesting to exercise your right to protest. But anti American troublemakers, the Antifa type, will be in the crowd and will turn your legitimate protest into a very dangerous fiasco. Okay, everybody's not going to be there like you. There are going to be foreign agents in the crowd. Now, before I keep talking, let me give y'all a little information. As a youngster, I wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to pop up in East Africa, so I wanted to go west, go to Hawaii, China, India, Africa. When I got to Hawaii, on Oahu, and on the Big Island, it didn't take me long to know that, yes, Hawaii is a tourist location, but Hawaii is also one of the top military bases in the United States. This is fact, y'all. This is back in the 80s. So when I'm in Hawaii, a lot of these growers that was growing the cannabis. Federal agents, facts, had federal agents growing. I had a conflict with one of them. I didn't know he was a federal agent. I figured it out though, because he had the federal seeds that they were growing in Mississippi. The feds was growing cannabis in Mississippi, and this guy had federal seeds. He had his hair grown out, had his beard grown out, but that was a cover. He was definitely a federal agent. I think a lot of times the feds ran background checks on me, and because my mother was a high ranking federal employee, I think they kind of green lighted me. Oh, that's Bessie's son. Okay, he ain't on nothing. If he gets out of line, we'll call his mother. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. As a matter of fact, I kept getting arrested for cannabis so much that I had a case. That's why I left Chicago. I left with a case. I had a warrant when I left. And every so often, the police would go by my parents' house looking for me for this warrant. Well, my mother got tired of the Chicago police, detectives and stuff, coming by her house looking for me. And she went and told her job. She worked for the Fed. She went and told them that I was gone, and they was constantly coming by her house, harassing her, looking for me. My mother told me the feds told her, okay, they won't be back. Real talk. So they will not be back. And anytime Michael comes to town, call us, and we'll make sure they don't bother him. What y'all think about that? Now, she told me this. She didn't tell me when it was going on. She told me this like after I was back for a while, and my case was thrown out. Which was a funny story. I was like coming down from Milwaukee from a show. I was vending. Police pulled me over. So I was driving like 7 miles over the speed limit. Ran my name. I had a warrant from way back then. Arrested me. My father and his friend, Mr. Smith, came and bailed me out. They gave me a court appearance in Chicago. I went to court. It was a black woman was the judge. She called my name. I went up there. She said, okay, you have a warrant for 1982. This was like 1990s. Like this 1992, 94 or something. She said, okay, you have a warrant from 1982. Black woman. She said, where you been, baby? I said, ma'am, I kept getting in trouble. I put myself on probation. She said, well, good for you. Case dismissed, sweetheart. I said, thank you, auntie. And that case got thrown out. But my mother, she called the feds. So we have a situation here where federal immigration officers shot and wounded 2 people in Portland, Oregon. Federal immigration officers shot and wounded 2 people in a vehicle outside a hospital in Portland, Oregon on Thursday, a day after an officer shot and unalived a driver in Minnesota. The shooting drew hundreds of protests to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building Thursday night. And Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield vowed to investigate whether any federal officer acted outside the scope of their lawful authority and to refer criminal charges to the prosecutor's office if warranted. The Department of Homeland Security, it's very important to remember, described the vehicle's passenger as a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring, who had been involved in a recent shooting in Portland. When agents identified themselves to the occupants during a targeted vehicle stop Thursday afternoon, the driver tried to run them over, the department said in a written statement. Now, Democrats out there saying they can't believe everything the police say, blah, 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 blah. People are saying, oh, so they're just shooting people. Absolutely. Why? They've green lighted South American and Venezuelans have been green lighted. They are under extreme heavy surveillance. They must be apprehended and deported immediately or imprisoned. Why? Because the U.S. has invaded Venezuela. And because the U.S. has invaded Venezuela, they are looking for people that could possibly try to retaliate. Even though it's a high possibility that the situation in Venezuela was worked out between the president of Venezuela and the U.S. military, that he could have possibly agreed to make it look like an invasion and an arrest. He could have possibly made a financial deal with the government to go to leave peacefully and let them come in and do what they do. That's what some people are saying. I'm not saying that. But it was done in a way where the opposition down there don't know. So they are definitely worried about attacks in the U.S. and retaliation for what happened in Venezuela. Not only attacks up here sponsored by Venezuelan gangs and Venezuelan military, but they're also worried about attacks up here that are persuaded by China and Russia. So right now you're in the middle of a huge espionage type war military situation. And because of that threat, they got to get all the Venezuelans out of here. ASAP. They're grabbing everybody and anybody. Now, And they shooting. Yeah, they're gonna shoot. They're gonna shoot. Allegedly, it's high risk, and it's a 911 federal situation. On top of that, when the Venezuelan gangs came up here, when they first got here 2 years ago, when the authorities would grab them, the Venezuelan government would not assist the authorities with any information on these criminals. So the U.S. was not given information on who they arrested. So they would arrest a dude, or 5 dudes, or 10 dudes. They would contact Venezuela. Venezuela would refuse to cooperate and give them any information on these people, which a lot of them were criminals that were intentionally released from Venezuelan prisons to come up here. Now, you have to know that prisons in South America, they actually have, the inmates have guns in the prison and have shootouts inside of the prisons. Yes. Some countries in South and Central America, in their prison, the prisoners making bombs and have weapons, guns, and have shootouts inside the prison. Now you got to think, U.S. was denied any information on who their backgrounds or anything. But now the U.S. has taken over, and now the U.S. does have information on who is who, because they've invaded and now they got access to the prison records. And it's going to be a long, hot year, because now Interpol and other Secret Service and other federal law enforcement agencies know who is who, and they know who they're looking for. This is how they say, oh, this is a prostitution ring from down there. How do they know? Because as of now, they have records that they did not have. And between now and December of this year, they're grabbing everybody. On top of that, you got the situation in Minnesota with the East Africans. So you got the Somalians that they are also looking at in the same manner, which is bleeding into the Nigerians. They haven't told y'all that part. You got to dig and so they're looking into the Somalian and the Nigerians heavy, because now Nigerian scams are popping up, and they're cleaning house. And because the Somalians are associated also with terrorist groups, they got orders to, pop. Yeah. They're not playing with any of them like they just regular criminal. They are considered high risk, high on the armed and extremely dangerous. They consider them extremely dangerous and terrorists. They got the orders to use those weapons. This is why you're going to see shootings. Because they, from Venezuela, they don't want anybody over here to try to seek revenge for Venezuela being invaded. And the Somalians is working with El-Shabaab and all that. They got a target on their heads for sure because they're involved with the East African terrorism, which goes all the way up to Darfur and all that. If you don't know about that, this is very serious. So they looking at America being invaded by terrorism from Africa and South America. This is how they looking at it. So you're going to begin to see like foreign ICE agents, like African ICE agents, like Middle Eastern ICE agents, South American ICE agents. For real. That's a part of the international structure to fight against terrorism. I just seen the African brother the other day. He could barely speak English. He was an ICE agent. Everybody like, well, how are you throwing out illegals, but you're not a citizen? It's got beyond throwing out illegals. They're throwing away. They're trying to throw out terrorists. They're trying to throw out like international people affiliated with international terrorist organizations, and they're going to be bringing in people in those countries that fight against international terrorist organizations in order to help them know who is who. So the agents in Africa that are there fighting against terrorism there, they're going to bring them over here. See, the United States government is not clarifying who's who. Okay? A lot of those people are not ICE agents. They are federal agents. They're not ICE agents. They're not, everybody's not ICE. That's why they're not identifying themselves. So when you see these people, you think it's ICE agents, but they form with masks on. Those ain't ICE agents. They have multiple agencies in these cities: FBI, CIA, Interpol, and all type of terrorist, federal and international terrorist organization. These ain't race soldiers. These are terrorist experts. This has nothing to do with racism at all. This has everything to do with terrorism. You're going to see Asians with masks on. Who remembers, what was that, about 6 months ago, that they found those apartment buildings in New York City? And they had apartments full of nothing but machinery in every room. And this machinery was just posting on social media constantly, like bots, like some high level sophisticated machinery that goes all the way up to the ceiling, whole rooms, and it's just going, and it's just uh, texting and posting on social media, propaganda. It's like one apartment is like the whole apartment was full of computers with no information on who's renting it or nothing. Y'all didn't see that? Hold on. Y'all, look, it's not even, yeah, they ain't showing that. They're not, it's not showing, it's not going to show that. They're like, Pharaoh, stop searching that. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, they don't want me to. They probably said, Pharaoh, you doing too much. It's a lot of espionage going on. That's the bottom line. A lot. A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with race. Okay? It says absolutely, don't let nobody make you think this is about race. This has absolutely nothing to do with race, nationality, or nothing. This has everything to do with U.S. security. I only could find a little bit of the information. Look, 100,000 plus SIM cards. It's a bunch of them. They don't want to, okay? Look, it say United States Secret Service at the top of this picture. And it was whole apartments full. Not this. This ain't it. This is not the real picture. It was apartment buildings full. And it's just in there working by itself. They can't find out who apartment it is or nothing. And they're all over the place. They just can't report it on the news because they don't necessarily want the people to know they found it so they can try to catch them slipping. They don't want to let them know we on to you. There's a lot going on. A lot. Trump and his allies have consistently blamed Nicaragua for being at the root of the violent and illicit substance dealing that plagues some U.S. cities. They was here in Chicago, Nicaragua, And yeah, they were here for sure. I seen them. You could tell a vicious. You could tell when somebody that's vicious. When Posy came here to visit me, we seen one for sure at the beach. He was for sure a violent South American gang member. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about. I felt sorry for the woman that was with him because that situation didn't look like a loving situation. Not the way he had her sitting in that chair and his posture and his demeanor. She was definitely and most likely a prostitute by force. So that's what's going on with that. They're at high alert since they invaded. They have to find all these people now that they got information. And they have to find radicals that don't know what's going on, that don't know that this was probably and most likely an arrangement between the president of Venezuela, and think that Venezuela was really overthrown when actually some experts say he made a deal. Even the way he was apprehended is suspicious. Some experts are saying he has so many security and so many of these rooms where they can lock him in with hundreds of men to guard him. For him to just walk out like that, he had to make that deal himself. That it's a big conspiracy and it ain't what it's looking like. But now they got access to all those criminal records and they are going to grab everybody. Everybody. Hispanic immigrants, a lot of Asian immigrants, a lot of African immigrants, Haitians, stuff like that, will be deported. Jamaicans will be deported. They will be bringing in like South African immigrants, Irish. They will be bringing in lots of white immigrants over the next 3 years to help their population. It's kind of decreasing. European population decreasing a little bit. They got to do something. They're trying to change the educational system. They're trying to push pride for their race. Can't blame them. And they're trying to bring up their population. This is why they're fighting against LGBTQ. It's not about hating gay people. It's about they need babies. And two men can't make babies. It's not about them hating LGBTQ. The birth rate is down. Governments say that the world is about 11 to 12% white, but a lot of experts say that the white population is only 7% of the world. 93% of the people in the world are non-white. So, and there's an Asian population that ain't having no babies. And you got an African continent where the average age is 15 years old, are growing, you know what I'm saying? The future of the race of the planet is Africa, India, China, not Europe. Europe's birth rate is down too. And Europe and America is practicing a lot of homosexuality, which is fine. I'm not against it, but in terms of a group of people trying to bring up their population, They're going to want men to have babies with women. They're not going to want two women together or two men. That's going to cut the population rate. That's what's going on with that. Has nothing to do with hating gay people. That has nothing to do with it. That's not what it's about. It's about they want a population. They don't want to be extinct. And if they don't do something in the next 10, 15 years, they won't run anything. They're going to lose every little bit of control over the world that they've been having for a while. Especially if they let these other people that own all the natural resources build up their technology and develop their own resources, which means they'll be able to make more stuff than America. America got to go get the resources. And one of the places that's got a majority of the resources is South and Central America. South and Central America. So they just want to increase their population. They know they can't stop the other populations, so they have to try to increase theirs. Because they can't stop the other populations. They've been trying, it's not going to work. That's not going to work. They have to try to figure out how to increase their own population rather than stop the others. They have countries right now that's so bad that if a man goes there and sleep with them women, they'll give you two wives, they'll give you a lot of land, all of that. I remember when I was in Hawaii, they had that island. It'll come to me. They had an island, and they told us. We talked to government people. They said if we move there, they'll give me 10 acres in the mountain, 10 acres in the lowland, and two women. If I would just come and breed. Uh, Dang, I knew the only roster from that island. It's gonna come to me. It was one roster from there, but he was going back and forth to Hawaii, and yeah, they offering us money to come there to have baby. They ain't trying to stop your population. Um, they trying to slow it down. They, like I said, they can't stop it, Troy. They 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 do want to slow it down, but they're realists. They realize it doesn't matter to slow down our population if theirs not growing. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Troy. If they're not reproducing, it doesn't matter what they do to everybody else. They will still be outnumbered. So the number one goal is to increase their population. It does no good to stop your population if they still ain't making no babies. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're right, but that's not the main goal. The main goal is for them to have babies. They're trying to figure out how to have them in test tubes or whatever. They're trying to figure out if they can raise them in big test tube farms, cloning. That's the main goal. The main goal ain't to stop you. The main goal is for them to have more babies. This is why they want abortion to be states' rights so that the white states will be illegal. That's the main goal. The main goal, Troy, is to have different states have different abortion so that the white states is illegal, but it's illegal where the blacks and Hispanics and Asians live. It can be legal. They're not going to necessarily make it legal. They just don't want it legal in white areas. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. It's not about you, uh, period. It's about they don't want to be having abortions. That's the main agenda. And they're trying to see what they can do about homosexuality to, because they have to reproduce. But right now, what I'm trying to tell y'all is you're in the middle of like a James Bond movie. Like the espionage is at an all-time high. Don't go to any of these protests. Do not go to any of these protests. You're going to end up on file. Don't go to any of these protests. I'm telling you right now. Don't go to any of these anti-ICE protests or any of that. And do not say anything on social media that will have the feds pull your file and sit an agent on you. Because new agents come in, that's what they do. They'll sit them on you. They'll get the new agent and they'll be like, watch this person. You watch that person. You watch that person. And they will sit an agent on you for years. And when they move up, they give you a whole file to the next young agent. They'll have a whole everything about you, where you went to dinner, your girlfriend or your husband, everything. Everything. They will have a file on you if you are a threat, if you're deemed a threat to national security. And you would be surprised what would make you a threat, because they look at it like this. If you're pushing a certain propaganda, you're encouraging subversives. They taking that serious. If you're influencing people to go against the government, they taking that serious. They taking it as an insult because they're like, how are you on our social media and our country talking against us? You can't be here under our US dollar and our United States and talk against the United States, which they right. You can't do that. That doesn't even make no sense. That you and somebody in a country and you talking against everything of the government in that country all out on the government's information. That's not military. That's not these guys that be playing black militants. Those are not black militants. There is no real black militants that's going to be on social media talking. All real black militants been went underground after they got rid of Malcolm and UEP Newton and Fred Hampton, after they ran in there on Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Ain't nobody out here. These dudes is talking that. They not that. As a matter of fact, if they talking a bunch of radical black stuff and they'll never get arrested, they probably the feds. Most likely. Y'all really believe they're gonna let you get on here and talk against the government? You ever seen me over here? You ever seen somebody like come over here and try to get on my case about not being more against the government? Who you think that is? Who you think that is going here? Oh, brother, you a sellout. You need to stand up against. Who you think that is? That come right on YouTube and talk all that rah rah sis kumbaya. Who you think that is? You already know who that is. That's the police. That's the feds. They downsize now this time of year, but election time they really be over here. They really be on social media every election. Midterms, they're going to be everywhere. Then after that election, they calm down, and then when it's time for the presidential election, your internet will be full of all type of government employees. You can make good money doing that. So right now, stay out. Your name West. Stay out of this whole ICE situation right now, because Grandmaster Jay was the police. He never was a militant. He was the police. Where do you think he's at? He's back working. He was a politician first. Then he was a DJ. Then he switched. He became a militant. Then he went to a big thing, and he intentionally pointed his weapon at a federal agent so he can pull him out. Pull him out. They went and pulled him, took him to a police station in the middle of nowhere, right? And he disappeared. They pulled him off when everybody found out he was an agent. He was an agent. And they went and grabbed everybody's files. He collected all them people's files. And the government got everybody's, all the information, their social security number and all that. Where they bought their weapons at, where they live at, their wife, their children, everybody in the NFAC have a file that he gathered. And guess what's quietly happening to the most radical ones? Getting arrested for this, car accident here, fire, lose their job there, poverty here, there. They ain't gonna make the news. They nobody's. So whatever happened to them, who's gonna know? Who's gonna report it? Who's gonna even know they was in the NFAC? That was to pull militants out. They do it all the time. Those organizations are to pull out militants. The Black Panthers was the feds started the Black Panthers. The feds started the Black Panther Party. That was started by the feds. Everybody's gone except the Fed that started it. He's fine. Bobby Seale was working with the Navy, worked for the Navy. In the newspaper, Bobby Seale was a federal military worker that started the Black Panthers. He's the one that went and got UEP Newton and put him in it. Everybody got messed up except him. He's a federal agent. No. When the revolutionaries found out that the Black Panthers was the feds, they went and they started other organizations, and then they took them all down. They took them down. because they went and started other organizations. They took them down. They started the Black Liberation Army. This was Suicide and them start, and they start robbing Brinks trucks and all of that. These was the people that found out the Black Panthers was a fraud. They went and started that organization. In the penitentiary, you had the Black Guerrilla family. You also had the Melanic Muslim Palace. You had them. Their holy man was Nat Turner. they holy man, the person that they looked up to was Nat Turner. The Melanic Muslims. You had the Black Guerrilla family and George Jackson. You had the Black Liberation Army. That's what Tupac's stepfather, Shakur, and all them was involved in that. You see what I'm saying? They wiped all that out. Yeah, they wiped all that out. You know what I'm saying? But Bobby Seale was Navy. He worked for the Navy. He was a genius. He worked for the Navy with like submarines and shit like that. He wasn't just no regular dude. This was a highly technological dude. Started the Black Panthers. Everybody got wiped out except him. The Bobby Hutton, they got UEP on substances. He was chasing white women on substances, so a lot of brothers left. Then they had him unalived in a robbery for substances. Then you had the branch in Chicago, which had access to all the gangs, so they was the most dangerous. They was bigger than UEP Newton. They was bigger than UEP Newton. So Fred Hampton became the number one threat. Then you had SINQ with the Syrianese Liberation Army. Playing around. They wasn't playing. The Black Panthers became the most dangerous, and Chicago branch became the most dangerous because they had access. They had access to the gangs. No, he wasn't a threat because he was young. He was a threat because he had access to the Blackstone Rangers, the Gangster Disciples, the Black Disciples, the Vice Lords. That's why he was dangerous. He was dangerous because he had access to the gangs. Anybody, OGs will tell you about the Main 21 and all that. So he was dangerous because he had the biggest. Chicago is the baddest and the biggest in the country, and he had access, and he was recruiting the gang members. So he had a membership that was going to be way bigger than Oakland. Oakland's a little place. And we know how that turned out for Fred. Him and Mark Clark. But no, it wasn't because of his age. It was because he was in Chicago. He had the gangs, had access to the gangs. He had access to the Blackstone Rangers. He had access to the Black Gangster Disciples. When they was together, he had access to Larry Hoover, David Barksdale, Jeff Ford. He had access to other armies, big armies. That you put it together, you got a mega army. So he had to go. That's why he had to go. Because of the gangs, not because of his age. Because of the Chicago gangs. That's why he had to go. He had access to too many soldiers. They was doing too much. So he had to go. He was doing too much. He was basically the leader of the Black Panthers. So he had to go. They was doing too much. They was doing way too much. So it wasn't his age, it was the food programs. It was access to the other gangs. It was educational programs. You see what was going on in Chicago? And what's going on across the country? See how they was feeding the people? I think this is in California, though. I'm not sure. But once Fred Hampton got in it, he was a threat to the other Panthers. The other Panthers became jealous of Fred because of the programs. The lunch programs and all of that. Having a leader, I don't understand. You got to ask that question different. Another having a leader, we stay on code. I don't know what that means. Ask me. You got to rephrase it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Ask that in another way so I understand what you're trying to say. But you mean how leaders are compromised? What leaders are compromised? I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. What leaders are compromised? Fred Hampton is gone. What leader? What? I don't understand what you're saying. What leaders? Like, give me some names. Who you're referring to when you say leaders? Like, give me some names, Troy. Like, who you mean when you say leaders? Who? There's no such leaders without followers. Well, you said are. You said our leaders are. You were supposed to say were, you mean? Since our leaders were compromised? Is that what you said? Because our leaders were not compromised, they were shot. What do you mean compromised? Malcolm wasn't compromised. Malcolm was shot. Fred was shot. Martin was shot. Wait, you know what you mean compromise? Compromise, you degrading them. You do you know what compromise? Compromise and being assassinated ain't the same thing. Hold on. You insulting them. Compromise, settle a dispute by mutual, accept standards that are lower than is desirable. So you saying our leaders accepted standards that's lower than desirable? You insulted them. That's an insult. You saying people that got unalived, yeah, that's why I understand. What do you mean compromise? Oh, you insulting them. If they would have compromised, they wouldn't have got shot, I don't think. I've never known Malcolm, Fred. I've never known them to compromise. Yeah, you used the wrong term. No, they ain't compromise, they get shot. Two things with leadership. Leader, you got to have followers. This generation won't follow nothing. First thing. So you can't have nothing if nobody will follow it. That's the first thing. There's no such thing as leaders without strong followers. So it always goes to the followers. Are the people weaker? And are the people split all up? Yes. Because the people are following a bunch of different ideologies which stop there from being any chance of leadership. You cannot be a leader with Moors out here. Moors are anti-leadership. That's some of the worst. Because unless you talking more, they don't want to stand with nothing. So when you got Hebrew Israelites, another group, Nation of Islam, another group, none of them put us in a position to have leadership because they all got their weirdo philosophies. And unless you under their philosophy, they don't push unity. They don't push unity. They push join my philosophy. Join my Christian church. Join my because you got two or three groups of Nation of Islam. They ain't even united. You got how many different groups of Hebrew Israelites? So these brothers start these groups, which are anti-unity groups. The Moors are the biggest example. Horrible. Anything you try to push, they find something wrong with it. They say we're not black, but they have not come up with nothing for us to be called. The Moors have created nothing for us to be called. They've not been able to replace the idea of black. And their movement is little, weak ass movement. The Moors ain't nobody. Neither is the nation of God's on earth. Them two organizations ain't nothing. What is it, 20 of them? They're nobodies. The Moors are nobodies. The Nation of Islam is kind of big, but the Moors are nobodies. Where they at? You got a bunch of Hebrew Israelite sets that's bigger than the whole Moors. All the Moors together is not as big as one Hebrew Israelite group. They got one Hebrew Israelite group. We have 1,000 members. The Moors is just a handful of weirdos. They're only good for coming in when you call yourself black. That's what I tell you, see Moors to come in and tell you you're not black. Other than that, they don't push no way to eat. They don't push no way to get no money. They don't push nothing. A lot of them join these weird conscious groups where they can hide and be a weirdo, conscious weirdo, and a Moor. Which one is you? You're a weirdo. Which one are you? You're a weirdo, conscious, or you a Moor? Make your mind up. Anytime you live in a world where you got to make money, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your car note, you got to pay your school, your children's school, you got to pay your phone bill, you got to pay your electric bill, you got to pay your internet. You ain't got time for no group. You got to pay. You got bills to pay. So if you ain't got no group gonna help me pay these bills, your group is trash to me. We don't have time for groups. We have wives and children and bills to pay. That's why we don't have no groups. The reason we are no competition for white America is because we don't have the right groups. We don't have General Motors, Ford, Chevy, Cadillac. That's what we don't have. T-Mobile. That's the group. That's the group that the black man ain't got. That's the leadership that the black man don't have that leadership. The CEO of T-Mobile, the CEO of Ford, Chevy, the CEO of Apple. That's the leader we don't have. Those other leaders that you're insinuating about, they can't help you pay no bills. It's not 1960. It's 2026. Bills got to get paid. I'm not going to listen to you talking about your hogwash. I got to pay bills. I got bills to pay. When you do go to the Nation of Islam, how they going to help me when they begging for money? I got to go to work and make money so I can go give it to Farrakhan. I can't chase behind Farrakhan because if I chase behind Farrakhan, I wouldn't have the money to give him when he's up there begging all day. Keep it real. You ever been to a Nation of Islam thing? They beg the whole thing. They beg constantly. They take every quarter from it. They ain't nothing but an Islamic Christian church. Anybody got 100, and 50, put in 50s. Then they go down to 20s. Then they go down to, who got 10s? Then they go down to 5s, put in 5. Then they go down to 1s. Then they go down to change. They take collection more than any church. All they do is beg from the time you get there. And they don't put no money back. You don't see a dime in the community. Not a dime. They ain't got a phone for us, a car for us. As a matter of fact, they Islamic counterparts will run all the gas stations, and the black Muslims got us going to the Arabs to get gas, talking all this pro-black stuff, and don't own not a goddamn gas station nowhere. The Nation of Islam is a disgrace. How you talking all this Muslim stuff, but when I go to the gas station, it's an Arab Muslim, it ain't a black Muslim. Make it make some sense. Am I lying? All these grocery stores and gas stations, which Muslims own it? The Arab. Not the black ones. Don't own nothing. Black Muslims is going to Arab gas stations and buying gas to put in their car. Because in Chicago, they own all the gas stations. They no white gas stations. All the gas stations is Arab. It might be some Indian ones or Pakistani. Ain't no black Muslim on that one damn gas station. They're a disgrace to Elijah Muhammad. Got no economic development and nothing. All talk. The Moors don't own a damn thing. Hebrew Israelites own a damn thing. Christians don't own nothing. Rastas don't own nothing. Name it. Name them. Nothing. Don't own nothing. Not a grocery store, nothing. You can't get a bag of wheat. So look, back to what I was saying, stay out of this. Get off the internet. Don't talk about ICE unless you want to go on federal file. Man, your business. You understand? Support the channel.